Hey guys, I am here and I am so excited to be here with Bandeauxx. We've been bantering like before this interview even started, and like I already can tell it's going to be an awesome time. Bandeauxx is a global electronic rap artist from Austin, Texas.
Yes,
Welcome,
he is.
welcome. How's it
Well, welcome.
going?
It's great. It's going great. The weather's good. It's hot outside. It's still summer, and I bloom in the summer. So far, so good. How are you?
I love to hear that. I am currently recording from New York and there is ridiculous thunderstorms outside. So like in beyond my earphones all I hear is boom boom and I'm like okay, I'm glad I don't have to leave the house today.
Massive shout to New York City. I got a lot of friends, and I've had some really good gigs there in the past, and look to continue tradition by playing there some more. So, hey, if you're in New York and you're hearing this, hey.
Hell yeah. If you're in New York and you're playing, like you'll have to let me know.
Oh yeah, all over it.
So, Bando,
Yes.
tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about you as an artist.
Okay. So there's a division between like art and artistry and artists. Okay, cool. So Bando as an artist started off as like a production project, which was an offshoot of like another DJ name that I had that I just stopped because I realized like the ceiling for DJing was just what it was, and I thought to myself, I'm like, oh, if I'm gonna keep doing this, I need something more challenging than just like going from DJ gig to DJ gig. And thanks to a friend of mine, Frank Flux from Miami, where I was living at the time, we started going more into music production stuff. And then I was already like, well, I come from a DJ, like this is a DJ background kind of situation. Like I have experience in the club, I was on the mic, played in other countries, whatever. So then I decided, I'm like, all right, I need to figure out how to rap and write songs for real. And then that was the genesis of the Bandeauxx project as we know it today.
Hell yeah. I love that that's the background because I started my entire career doing like parties and events, doing photos for parties and events. And like because of that, you start to learn how to do things like read the room. You start to learn how to like, influence like the vibe, the energy of like a crowd, and it's something that's really important for people to know, especially if you're going to be up in front of people like performing, whether that is like rapping or whether that is DJing. So like I would love to hear like how that transition from that lifestyle happened to being like, all right, well now I've been playing other people's stuff and now I want to make my own.
That was literally the thing. It's like, oh, part of what I was talking about before was, oh, new challenges. And I've already played a lot of other people's music. I'm like, all right, so let's see if I have something to add to this. And then it turns out, in a variety of ways, I did. And making beats was easy. The For me, it's easier. I decided, all right, I need to actually go full in. And then before I knew it, I was writing songs. I did an EP worth of music, some of it instrumental. Most of it was more like rap focused because I'm not a
Mm-hmm.
naturally trained singer.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just like, okay, this is what I've got. Anything else is just going to take too long to learn. And I'm already getting lapped up by like 14-year-olds who go to conservatories and like 10-year-olds who pirate programs and are making the best music you've ever heard. So I'm like, okay, where am I at? Where do I need to go? And how do I just start getting a move on with this?
I feel you. I had a DJ on here a while back, and he basically like he told me that he makes all his music on like a pad and just like sits there and like makes the beats. And I think that like having that background of coming from like mixing, like literally mixing. Like I'm staring. I have a mixer sitting next to me.
Ooh.
Like when I tell you like mixing and being able to bring things together.
Wow. Wow.
Wow, Celia has toys. No, I'm kidding. No, but no, I'm just kidding. But being able to like conceptualize like the ways that you can bring songs together, especially with stems, really probably gave you a good idea of like how to start crafting like the structure of a song, right?
Something like that. So the actual process I went through was
Mm-hmm.
researching, like combining what I do with DJing, where it's like, okay, song structures work like so, so, and so,
Mm-hmm.
depending on what you're doing, genres, moods, vibes, just anything.
Mm-hmm.
And that came from just DJ knowledge and like basic music theory. And then
Yeah.
how to mix it together was it wasn't with it was this was like pre-stems. I love stem play, by the way. That's been like really clutch as far as the next step of DJing for me.
Mm-hmm.
But back when I started this, stems weren't really a thing. I wasn't breaking it down like that. It was more like a mental exercise of like, okay, let me just listen to everything part by part by part, and then try to like remix, recreate, grab an acapella. Actually, the first time that I did like a Bandeauxx remix was for a band out in Sweden called Lines, and they were signed to a big label. They had a big cosign, and everything was on the up and up, and they just liked what I did to the song. So
Hell
that
yeah.
kind of, I think it was kind of like not like the first informal release. Like I think it was just like a SoundCloud only thing, but they liked it.
Hell yeah. Like I love I've people don't know my DJ knowledge. I have more DJ knowledge than people think I know.
Oh,
And I
me too.
love it's just like you show up and it's like ba bam, guess what? So like making that transition, I feel like I, as someone that comes from a background of DJing, like did you have to get over like that hump of like, okay, well, I've been working with pre-existing things to create what I'm creating on stage or like, whatever. Did you have to like get past like a mental block to be like, I'm gonna write now? Or was it something that you just feel like you're gonna start up on? Like how did that moment go for you?
It was the latter. It was like I just need to
Mm-hmm.
start somewhere, and I just write random rhymes and stuff, or just anything that pops into my mind. That's like, okay, that could be cool. That could be catchy if you say it enough times. Just really not. I don't really give myself like dramatic pause moments of like, okay, so this is it. I mean, I do that, but it's just a lot less intense than how I'm saying it. In my mind, I'm like, okay, cool. I'm gonna find out how this works, and then I'm going to do it enough times until it's like, oh, I get like the hang of it.
I feel you. I feel you. I like to ask it that way though, because sometimes like, there's a life event or a thing that people remember and they're just like, oh yes, this was the thing that like, helped me click that moment.
I
And
really, yeah.
you don't have to have that moment because I always ask because there's a lot of people that won't let themselves start. You know what I mean? Like that they're like, I can't do this. There's people that do this, but I don't do this. So that's why I'm like, let's see his journey because it could have been anything.
And it sometimes is anything. Like I want to say that there were actual definitive like origin story moments or just pivotal moments where it's like, oh yeah, this is where he becomes Batman, and it's like, no, this is just I woke up in the costume one day and just started fighting crime. I don't know, it's just in me like that. I don't know.
I love that you picked Batman because I am a big Batman fan. um,
Wow.
I'm a big Batman fan. I actually I produced a Batman fan film that was like an award-winning Batman fan film, and I traveled the country going to Comic Cons and like got interviewed at them and such, and won a bunch of awards.
Celia Warner's Batman. Like I would have loved to see that on the big screen or anything. Is it still around? Is it on YouTube anywhere?
It's on YouTube. Remind me and I'll send you the link. But anyway,
Cool.
so let's move forward. So now we have Bando the rapper. You've gotten into songwriting and you started kind of like figuring out that world. How was the transition to now going from, DJing and on the mic to like actually like a performance where you're not behind a board?
Oh, that's where things got really interesting because I really just broke down the showmanship, and I'm like, okay, how does this work when I'm not DJing and it's still an ongoing question? And I knew what elements I wanted. I think the one thing that I'm still working on is the physicality of the show, and it's not just moving from like part to part. Like I have the energy. It's more so things like breath control and remembering lines that like trip me up. Because sometimes it's like, oh, I didn't say that on the recorded version, but I did it live. And as long as people like get it, because it's like they've never heard the music before, they haven't like lived with the songs. So for all they know, the live version is one thing, the recorded version is another, and they're kind of similar enough that there's not really a discrepancy. I think for live shows, it was an extension of just a DJ vibe where I'm just bouncing all over the place and getting really active and physically engaging, which is why one of my, I suppose, DJ lines is, oh, I'm running a club and a gym at the same time because people like dance. They leave sweaty. They like that kind of thing. It's engaging. It's like you have to
100%.
involve your body
I
if you
get
go to a
that.
show.
I feel you. I feel you because like whenever I'm going out to see a DJ, like I'm going to dance. Like in my head I'm like I want to go dance. Like whenever I'm going to see like, you know, like a band or something, I'm like I am going because I want to hear the really good music. It's not always I want to dance. But
Hmm.
whenever I'm going to a club, I'm just like fuck it. Like I want this to be something that like I know enough of it that I'm going to be able to sing along and I want to dance and be at like a fun BPM.
You know what's funny? Sometimes I play at events and people aren't expecting to dance. They do welcome it, but I have been told that sometimes I'm playing somewhere and people weren't expecting to dance, like that wasn't on the menu at all, and they wind up dancing. And I want to say that they're better for it, but some people are just kind of like, oh, didn't expect that. I don't know. We all deal with the world in different ways. So it's like, hey, if you feel thrown off, I mean, come to the next one and now you're prepared.
See, like I like that like because I feel like there's different kind of DJ events. I think we're going to go on a DJ tangent. So there's different kind of DJ events. Like, you know, there's the okay, you are background music events. And then there is the we need you to lead the damn party events. You know what I mean? That's the spectrum. And like, you know, people hire different kinds of DJs between that whole spectrum. Like I would say like the big club events would be like, you know, the epitome of like, you know, dance DJ, keep everyone sweaty, keep everyone drinking. And then like the cocktail hour type stuff where it's just like you're the aesthetic. It's a whole different approach because you're painting the atmosphere at that place with like the music that you are playing versus like, you know, having to like keep people engaged. Have like, you know, it's an interesting spectrum in my opinion, and I would love to hear your thought on like, you know, the approaches for like these different kinds of things.
So this leads to me to a point that I read on Twitter/X today about DJs and what would actually make you better. And it's not hours of practice, it's more like learning your songs and curating things a little better. Back to your point, back to your initial statement though about wallpaper DJing and you're just like part of the aesthetic, like, oh yeah, I'm playing at a Lululemon, so okay, cool. Or I'm playing for this big corporation like Google or something versus, oh, you're at the club, you got to keep the energy moving from bar to dance floor to bar, bar, hopefully not to the exit, but you're bringing people in more. It's an interesting dichotomy, and I think I've just gotten as I've like gotten older and more experienced and more into the things that get me going and keep me going, I've kind of like, listen, at this point, if you get me in whatever sense, whether as like a rapper, performer, DJ, whatever, I'm just gonna bring whatever I'm bringing, and either, hey, you already signed off on this. I can ignore the theme if I want to. Like I know what I'm bringing, and I'm not gonna try to like sabotage whatever big marketing plan is going on. But it's more like, hey, if you get me, expect X, Y, and Z to happen. And it's one thing to like play it cool, but all you do is play it cool. If you're really well networked and you can get gigs where they just like, hey, do something at this Lululemon or like, oh, go play at H&M or something, that's cool. And that's a really good lane to be in because like, hey, it's like an easy gig and you can curate whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
On the other end is like, oh, if your thing is to make people dance and you gotta be the center of that, lean in whatever
Yeah.
way you know how. Because sometimes I'll just be like, not necessarily rapping my own songs, because I think that's a little bit like, oh, that's another like very jarring, like, oh, what is he doing? But I'll just like ad lib it.
I feel you. I feel like in New York, events are more like clubs, like when they're at like a catering hall. Like New York DJs are different than like, you know, DJs other
Everybody.
places. Yeah,
Yeah, New York DJs are like
it's a
on their own wavelength.
It's a different breed, because it's very heavy with MC work. Like it is very heavy with MC work because the MC is running the party, running the dance floor. At least at private events, it's kind of similar at a club, but not as like heavy on like yeah, get up, let's go, whatever, everyone on the dance floor, let's go. And it's like I'm interested like in this conversation because it's hard to explain the dichotomy because I was the photographer on the dance floor. You know what I mean? I was the one reading the room and going back and reporting to the DJ of like, yeah, no, you're losing everyone. Oh no, this and that, blah blah blah. Because sometimes, like you know this, sometimes they put the DJ in like a place where they can't really monitor what's going on, and you're like, sometimes. At least in New York, maybe the DJ booth is going to be somewhere where you're like not really very close to like a functional dance floor. Or have you ever done a gig where it's like a dance floor that shouldn't be oriented one way and then it kind of like messes up the vibe? Or is this New
Even
York
if it is that
problems?
way, I just still just go in and go for it anyway, just because it's like, hey, I'm already here.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of it like at that point it becomes like a branding exercise. It's like, okay, did you make like this person and their grandmother shake some ass, or were you just like being cool and just like posing for pictures? Both are valid, by the way. If you're a DJ who's just really into like physical aesthetics and looking cute and stuff, yo, more power to you. I want to learn your ways because I
I
don't
feel
say no
you.
to easy money. So that's just how I'm built.
I feel you. I feel you. So, in terms of your style, like whenever you're doing like a Bandeauxx show, like like where do you lie in terms of like the crates that you're like creating and the areas that you like to DJ in? Because I know that there's different areas of like there's the very techie stuff and like or like where do you lie?
When you say techie, I'm assuming you're talking about like CO2 lights. Maybe I'll throw like a pie at somebody. I love all that. I'm really about it. I am so about just ridiculous stage shows. And this isn't even about memes and content. This is just because I am a person who likes being entertained. Like, hey, you got a flame bartender? Yeah, it looks cheap. Yeah, it looks hacky. It's also very fun. And I think DJs and producers and just anybody who has like a computer type job or approaches music like a computer type job has to lighten up about that, about theatricality, or just at least like have that coming home moment where it's like, yeah, you know what? I don't do this. I can't do this. I didn't know I had to do this when I was just like signing up and I was torrenting my little programs or whatever. But they actually want me to put on a show and just general purpose you have to know if you're built for that kind of thing. Not everybody is. I seem to be. So that's what I'm going to do. So if you're talking about tech, I don't really use a whole lot of tech outside of a DJ controller. If it's a DJ show, if it's just a rap show, then I mean, the more things I could throw out, the better, because it's like I'm already bringing the energy and the vocals and stuff. It's just a matter of like, hey, are the lights right? Hey, does the CO2 work? And just these other little wish list things that I sometimes get, sometimes don't. And I just have learned to be really adaptable and just work with what I've got. Because it's like, you already brought me here anyway. I'm going to do the natural thing. It just looks so much cooler when we can actually dress it up.
I am a big proponent for dress it up. I actually showed up to one of my friends' shows with a bunch of pink smoke bombs once
Sick.
because it was a music festival and
Yeah,
they were on the low key like the shitty stage that was off to the side, but everyone saw the pink smoke go up.
that's
Everyone
it.
came over for the pink smoke.
That's
You
it.
know,
And yeah, and that's just good sales and marketing. Like Bando as a project is like I've been playing around with like cyberpunk aesthetics, but the thing with cyberpunk aesthetics is they're very based in the 80s. And my thing has been make it more global and
mm-hmm.
make it more up to date. Like, okay, cool, we're still referencing the 1980s, fine, but what would a 1980s musician or act do? Like, what would Rick James be doing in 2024 if he was coming of age? Like, what would Prince do? Like, what would the Sex Pistols do? People like that. And just trying to bring the visual aesthetics to like match the stage stuff, even down to like knowing how to, again, talking about how DJs curate. Also, curation is just another word for shopping.
Mm-hmm.
So is the look right? Is the imagery right? Because it's just so much more than music if you're going to go at it as like a solo act of any kind.
Hmm.
And there's room for theatricality. Like it's not frivolous. It matters because like anybody could stand on a corner and just like rap or play a guitar or whatever. But it's also like, hey, but Celia's crew had the pink smoke bombs,
Yeah.
and I like smoke bombs.
I feel you.
So
You know, when you go like down like the street, like I'm gonna use New Orleans as an example, and you see the sideshow like on the side of the road, and you're like, fuck, that guy did an entire dance on a crate. What the fuck? That was awesome. That's what
yeah,
I'm getting. That's the vibe I'm getting from what you're saying. Sorry to cut you off, but that's like the
not
visual
cool.
I have in my head. And I love that this is the aesthetic that like you're talking about, because I'm a visual person. I'm a visual artist. Like, I work in visual mediums like photo, video. I apparently now paint things. So I paint apparently now. I
Apparently,
painted. Well, no, I was afraid to do art, like physical art, and now I am less afraid to do it. But I like that you're talking about like aesthetic, because that is a big part of the current industry, and you need to be able to differentiate yourself, because if someone's looking for a DJ that they just need a DJ like with a period at the end, they might not be the right client for you. But if they want someone to come and bring confetti cannons and like go the fuck off and like have a fucking party, like it sounds like that's more your lane. So them being able to understand that you're the party guy and you're the cool guy and you're gonna bring the fucking like, the vibes,
yeah.
that's gonna do you better. So being able to take like those inspirations and then like make them your own is like a huge asset in today's age.
I think so, only because it's like music. It's like the way we make music now is pretty much based on like the 70s and 80s, where it's just like a couple dudes in a cramped room just like wailing out on like synthesizers and keyboards and guitars and whatnot. But that doesn't speak to my lived experience, just because, again, we're coming back to curation. It's like, hey, I like natural lighting. My aesthetic is like, yeah, tech wear, tech heavy. It's definitely like futuristic leaning, but also it's also like, hey, how do you make music in a more modern way? Because sometimes you're going to use AI. You're going to use like these tools that are here, but with the foundation of like, hey, this is just how music works.
Mm-hmm.
It's all theoretical, like it's music theory, but it's like, hey, these things just done in a modern way, which is why like remixing came easier to me, because it's like, oh, I could just like imagine different directions of where this is going, even down to the aesthetic. It's like I always ask myself just visually, I'm like, okay, so what if the movie Blade Runner was set somewhere besides where it was set? Like, let's take it like my family's from Trinidad. Like, Blade Runner set in Trinidad would be really interesting. Blade Runner in Jamaica, Brazil, Japan, like any of these places, it's like, what do you get out of that? And then in the beginning, my thought process was like, how would that sound?
Mm-hmm.
And then since then, I've been chasing that high.
The best way that I can like explain that is like, think of how different the Fast and Furious movies are when you go to the different cities.
That is another one. Like, I love the Fast and Furious before they started like doing superhero type antics. Like, there was a shift, and this is why I always say like Tokyo Drift is like the best one of the whole series. Like, put the acting aside, just like really
I mean,
understand. It's
the
like,
acting's not even a part of it, it's the cars. The acting
no,
is
no,
just
no. It's been cars and stunts and girls and just like aesthetics. Basically, just throw a bunch of things that dudes like, dudes and women and everybody for real. So, ladies, gentlemen, just things that people like and will like catch your attention. That's it. Like the problem is everybody thinks that they're like a critic and everybody's on this like high art thing, and it's like, no, it's okay to just enjoy things for what they are.
that was one of the biggest things that I had a problem with in film school, because everyone's like, we have to do it this way. It's got to be whatever. And I'm like, yo, but I like Mean Girls. Like, Mean Girls is a great movie, and Mean Girls
Yeah,
made a lot of money. Like, why can't we do this? Because this is going to clearly work, and there's an audience that wants like fucking Mean Girls. So like,
yeah,
that like I'm someone that's just like, I enjoy sitting down and watching Fast and Furious, because Fast and Furious has all of my favorite like flashy parts of movies in one. Like, what better way than going and watching like, a movie like that, where it's like you have the scenes and you have the action and you have the adventure and you have a fucking kick-ass soundtrack. That's the most important thing. So like, why not go and enjoy the party and be a part of the party? You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, it's okay to enjoy things. It's cool. There is no value in just being the person who just like everything. There really
I
isn't. It's okay to be honest with yourself. It's okay to enjoy things. It's okay to not enjoy things, but just don't rain on other people's parade. Like I
Yep.
enjoyed I enjoyed the Avengers movies. I enjoyed Barbie. Cool. It's not high art. It's just like, hey, it just is what it is. Just just go for the ride.
I feel you. I feel you. So circling back, because we're going to circle back to this, and then I'm going to ask you a question, and then we're going to wrap up. I want to circle back to how you create your music now. Are you like a DAWs guy, or like or do you like use existing beats and then manipulate them?
Uh, you said Dawes?
Like as in like when you're creating your music, like do you do it more computer based, or is it something that you like record instruments and then bring in, or are
No,
you a beats
it's
guy?
all in the laptop. Always has been. I won't say it always will be, but it always has been up to this point. It's just easier for me to just go in, do that because another reason that I took up like rapping and songwriting and like piling on tasks was literally because sourcing people is like herding cats and you just like everybody's off doing a different thing and it's like yeah it might be worth it. However, tomorrow's not guaranteed. So I need to do what I can today and also learn how to trash bad ideas really, really fast. Like, don't commit to bad
Mm-hmm.
ideas. So, yeah,
Yeah,
I've been in Ableton Live main since like 2016.
I feel
Um,
you.
yeah, yeah. So I've been in Ableton Live since like 2016, and I've just been making music through that. I mean, I do use loops, I do use samples. I'm getting more into like whatever AI can give me, which is I'm just gonna say this now, just as a pro technology person and like democratizing technology person the AI fears that musicians have is like, hey, if you're not doing basic music, you have nothing to worry about. Also, it's not gonna automatically like pop up one day and like eat your programs and take your jobs and all this fear mongering stuff that people like talking about because that's not real. What you should be concerned about is people who are really good with it and can pump out a lot of good stuff very, very fast
Mm-hmm.
but we know who those people are, or if we don't, we will know in the coming years.
I I agree with AI. Just like as a general statement, like there's a way that you can use it for like even just smaller tasks within like creating music. Like, okay, I need something like a drum beat or something
Yeah,
like that. And like that doesn't take away from the artistry. Obviously you need to make your adjustments and do whatever you need to do, but like, it just, bypasses the fact that like you might not have the ability to like do a drum pad, or you might not have a drummer, and you're able to like, you know, take steps forward within your process in an easy way that, you still have control over.
yeah. I think a lot of people kind of get their jollies from just having like I do everything myself. I'm a workhorse. Look at me work so hard, and then you hear their music, and it's like, yeah, maybe you should have just like I don't know, sipped a coffee, take a walk around, like do something for yourself before you started touching the keyboards or something. Because yeah, you did it, but I feel nothing from this.
I feel like that comes down to like, obviously like taste profile. I feel like that comes down to like music theory and knowledge and being able to figure out like how to like, I don't know. It all comes back to being able to connect with the audience. And if you're able to
Always.
connect with the audience, like, and you're able to utilize AI to help you facilitate that, like, it's at the end of the day, you're trying to connect with people. And it's about connecting with people. It's not about, oh my God, the computers. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I want you to repeat everything you just said to like every musician based group on Facebook because I've been hanging out there every so often just trying to like get a lay of the land and uh-uh.
I mean, like obviously, like I'm someone, I have a keyboard upstairs, I have guitars upstairs, like but the thing is, like I like as someone that works in like
Media?
media, like that's why I have a mixer next to me. Like it works better for my brain to like process it that way. and
Mhm.
understand it that way. And I understand the concerns with AI, but like again, it's if you're using it for like a very specific thing, that's one thing. But like if all you're doing is like plankton covers, like yeah, like that's a whole other thing, and that's the thing that people probably are more concerned on. It's like, oh, they can use my voice or this or whatever. But if you're using it as a creative tool, it's a little different than using it as a be all end all.
Mm, you bring up good points. I hadn't thought about plankton covers specifically, but
Have you
I
not
see where
seen
you're
the
going with that.
plankton covers? Have you not seen the plankton covers on TikTok?
I'm very tapped in, but I am not
Oh,
all the
look it
way
up.
tapped in.
Look it up because
I
they have
will.
plankton from SpongeBob as like the vocals for like big songs. Like they did a Chapel Roan one and like a bunch of other things and like Bring Me to Life by Evanescence. Like it's a vibe. But I can see where the delineation is because one is making a direct copy with a slight change versus the other one helping facilitate create something from scratch.
Yeah, and sometimes your creativity is like, hey, what if I just did like a whole Britney Spears cover in Plankton's voice?
That I have a feeling that that's something you should look into after this.
Hey, I like a good time. I might just do it.
Well, if you do, I want to hear it, so you'll have to send it to me.
I
But
got you.
444 on the timer. Haha. So I'm gonna ask you the question I ask everyone on this show. And you could take this in whatever direction that you would like to. If you were going to talk to someone that is starting their music journey now, what would be your advice to them?
Develop your taste first and foremost. That's it. Just
That's it. Just develop your
yeah,
taste.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Just develop your taste and like know what you're good doing it for. Develop your voice. Have opinions on things, even if it's the wrong opinion. Actually, you know what? Don't have wrong opinions on things. Nobody likes that. Nobody wants to deal with a person with like who's constantly doing wrong opinions. However, yeah, develop your taste, develop your perspective. Is I think the greater point of it. It's like, oh, okay, you're making music. Are you using it to express things? Are you doing like a wallpaper? Like, oh, we're just gonna like play this as cool background things, and there's no wrong answer. Like your answers and your conclusions are your answers and conclusions. Sometimes you want to go with the crowd. Sometimes you just need to stand your ground and be like, hey, I like this and see what happens. Don't expect to knock everything out of the park, but if you think it's worth trying, it probably is.
I feel that. Thank you for like hanging out today. This has been such a fun episode. We jumped all over. Like, you know, it was like we before this, we both were like, yeah, this can go anywhere. This could get weird. And we went from like DJ life to rapping to like Fast and Furious to like AI. Like we covered like the basis. We
I
got
pretty much we did. I think I'm like, yeah, these are pretty much all things that I have some say in. I like all these things.
I like these because all of the conversations are so different and you have like a couple of different backgrounds, so I'm glad that we were able to hop between them.
Yeah.
If someone wants to follow you or, you know, collaborate with you, how can they find you?
Oh, I'm like the easiest person in the world to find. I'm at Bandeauxx on everything. You need to spell it exactly as it is on that screen right there. I'm not hard to find. Um, DMs are open with a secret password that I will not reveal on camera. However, it is possible.
I see.
Just bring
The
a good
secret
attitude. Be a
the
vibe.
secret password. Anyway, thank you so much for hanging out with me today, Bando. This was such a fun conversation, and I can't wait to see what you do next because clearly you're a showman and you're going to be doing some really fun stuff. So thanks for hanging, and I hope that you have a great rest of your night.
I hope you have a great rest of your night too.
Thank you. And to those at home, make sure to give them a follow, and I'll see you on the next episode.